Victory listeners. I am not Bill Yonka, for those of you who are showing up late. Bill will be here, so all will be well. But he asked me to kick things off tonight. So as we get started, just a couple of things to point out for y'all. If you need a program, they're right over here, so come grab one. We've got 6 storytellers tonight. And we want to thank, obviously, the Venue Lounge, thank the owners and the bartenders. And we want to thank the Kankakee Podcast for being here once again. So all these stories will be recorded and be available for your listening pleasure on the Kankakee Podcast. Be sure to check it out. So we got 6 storytellers tonight, and to kick it off, I'm going to go first. Y'all ready? All right, here we go. Have you ever made a deal with God? Oh, I have. So I grew up in the church, and I grew up going to church 3 times a week. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. I went to church camp. I went to children's church, Sunday school, vacation Bible school, all the things. And I learned all the stories. I learned about all the Bible figures who bargained with God. There's a famous story about Moses, right, who bargains with God and asks God not to destroy the Israelites. And God actually changes his mind after Moses bargains with him and makes a deal with him. And so, for me as a young kid, my understanding of God was very transactional. If I do X, God will do Y. So if I can think of something that's a win-win for me and God, that's a pretty good situation to be in. The summer of 1984 was a great summer. It was the year that I fell in love with the Chicago Cubs. I was 9 years old, and the Cubs played every game on WGN, and all their home games were at 1:20 in the afternoon because they didn't have lights. And so every time they had a home game at 1:20 in the afternoon, I'd be there on the couch watching the Cubs. I fell in love with that team that year. I knew the lineup, I knew all the pitchers, I knew the pinch hitters and bench players and bullpen guys, I knew all the coaching staff. I made my own scorecards and kept score. I sang the 7th inning stretch with Harry Carey every game. It was a blast. And you know what? The Cubs were good that year. It was the first time they did good in a long time. And there was talk that maybe the Cubs could get to the playoffs, and maybe, just maybe, they could get to the World Series. They hadn't been to the playoffs in like 40 years. So this was going to be a big deal. Well, in August, school started, and I had to go to 4th grade. And that was a bummer because I couldn't be at home to watch the beginning of those 1:20 starts for the Cubs games. And so whenever the Cubs played at home, I would rush home as fast as I could from the bus stop after school. I'd try to beat my sister home, and I could get to the couch about the 7th inning. So in enough time to hear Harry Carey sing the 7th inning stretch and to watch Lee Smith close it down for the win. Still good, but it was kind of a bummer. But a great thing happened that year. The Cubs won their division. For the first time in 40 years, they won the division, and they were going to the playoffs. And back then, if you got to the playoffs, you were 3 wins away from the World Series. It was a whole lot shorter to get to the World Series back then. It was a lot tougher, too. 3 wins, that's all they needed. And so I begged, and I pleaded with God. I wanted the Cubs to win. I wanted the Cubs to get to the World Series so badly. And I don't remember exactly what I offered to God for this to happen. I made some concessions. It was probably something like clean my room, eat my broccoli, invite the neighborhood bully to church. I don't know. Things like that, right? But I made some concessions, and I felt, okay, God, let's make this happen. Let's do this thing. Well, the problem was I wasn't going to get to watch the games. The first 2 games were at Wrigley Field, and they started at 1:20. I was in school. The next 3 games were in San Diego against the Padres, and those didn't start till like after 9 o'clock. And my parents were never going to let me stay up to watch those games. I mean, they didn't understand how baseball had been incorporated into my religious practices, or vice versa. So I decided to make a plan. I did the math, and I worked my way backwards and thought, okay, if I start to get a stomach ache around 10:45 in the morning, my teacher's going to send me to the nurse's office. The nurse is going to tell me to go lie down. After about an hour or so, the nurse will come and ask me if I'm feeling better, and the answer obviously will be no. My mom will come and get me, maybe about 12:30 or so. I'll get home by 1 o'clock, and I'll be on the couch in time for the 121st pitch. So I put my plan into action, and you know what? It worked like a charm. I got to watch that first Cubs game, and you know what? They won that first playoff game. I was ecstatic. They were 2 wins away from the World Series. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to run it back. I'm going to try this again. All right? So the next day, I did it all over again, and it worked again. I was at home for the 121st pitch. I couldn't believe it. And the Cubs won the second game, too. They were 1 win away from the World Series. Just 3 games in San Diego. That was it. They had to win 1. Well, I didn't get to watch those games. And the Cubs lost all 3 of those games. The season ended in disappointment. They didn't go to the playoffs. I was just beside myself, upset with grief. And you know what? As a 9-year-old kid going on age 10, I blamed myself. I was like, oh no, this was my fault. Because I made a deal with God for the Cubs to win. But then I got in the way of that deal because I lied to my teacher, and then I lied to my mom. And God was punishing me by making the Cubs lose. It was my fault. And I carried that guilt with me for a lot longer than I should have, I think. Well, fast forward to 1991. I'm 16 years old, and I still haven't forgotten about 1984. And there was a particular movie that came out in 1991, and my parents specifically forbid me from seeing that movie. I remember my dad looked at me and he said, "You are not allowed to go see The Doors." Very specifically. And I was like, I don't know what the big deal was. Was it the rock music? Was it the rampant drug use? I knew one thing for certain, though. I was going to go see The Doors. So, one Saturday night, my friends and I loaded up in my 86 two-door Caprice Classic, and we went to the movies, and we watched The Doors for the cinematic masterpiece that it is. I didn't start doing drugs. I didn't start worshiping Satan. Everything was fine. Now, I need to interject one thing here. I'm a terrible liar. Horrible. Just ask my wife. Really, really a bad liar. So I got home that night, and my parents were still awake. All right, here we go. I walked in the door. "Hey, Jared, what movie did you see, or what'd you do tonight?" "I went to the movies." "Oh, yeah? What did you go see?" "Home Alone." You see, I hadn't seen Home Alone. I didn't even know it was still playing in the theaters, but my parents had seen Home Alone. I knew that much. And I picked a movie that they had seen and I hadn't. "What was your favorite part about the movie, Jer?" You know that part where Kevin shaves and then puts the aftershave on his face and screams in the mirror, right? That was pretty funny. That was the only part from the TV promos that I could remember. I was like, this is it. I'm busted. It's over. "Well, good night. See you tomorrow." I was like, what? I pulled it off. I did it. They bought it. I thought I was in the clear. So I went to bed. Well, the next day was Sunday, and it was time to go to church. So I did my usual Sunday morning routine, and I went to go to church, and I took one step out the front door to cross the threshold of my house, and I started to feel unwell. I ran back inside, and I barely made it to the bathroom, and I got hit with a biblical pestilence that might have been Moses' 11th plague. It was brutal. I didn't make it out of the bathroom that day. I didn't make it to church for sure. I spent the next 20 hours on the bathroom floor, huddled in the fetal position with my eyes closed and the lights off because I felt so terrible. Later on that day, my mom walked in the bathroom to check on me. I have no idea what time it was. You sort of lose track of time in situations like that. She went to check on me to see how I was feeling. I thought, you know what? This is my fault. I brought this on myself because I lied about that movie. I thought, you know what? It's dark in here. I've got my eyes closed. I can't see my mom. She's not going to really be able to see me very well. I think it's time to come clean. I hadn't made it 15 hours, right? So I said, "Mom, I gotta tell you something. Oh yeah, what's that, Jer? I didn't go see Home Alone last night. Oh yeah, what did you do? What'd you see? The Doors. Silence. The next sound that I heard was the sound of the door closing as my mom just walked out of the room. I came clean with God that day on the bathroom floor. I confessed every lie that I had ever told, including 1984 about the Cubs. I even made up some lies to confess just to make sure I had all my bases covered. I just wanted to feel better. Well, fast forward one more time to 2016. 32 years since I first dipped my toes in the waters of deception and lied to my teacher and my mom in order to watch the Cubs in the playoffs. It had been 25 years since the plague of 91, and I lived a pretty good, upstanding, honest life to that point, I think. And I believe that God decided it was time to come through on that deal we made back in 1984. You know what? You've paid your penance, Jeremy, and you've done well, and I think we're going to see this thing all the way through now. And the Cubs won the World Series. So, for all of you Cubs fans out there who are still bitter about 1984, who still feel like this rage boil up inside you every time you hear the name Steve Garvey or you use Padres as a four-letter word. For all of you, I'm sorry. That one's on me. That was my bad. I did that. It's not going to happen again. Now, for all you Cubs fans who are still basking in the glory of 2016, who still feel this childlike euphoria rise up every time you think of Ben Zobrist doubled on the left field line in the 10th inning, or you think of that last out, Bryant to Rizzo to win the World Series, to all of you, you're welcome. Thanks. Let's give Jeremy a big round of applause. Thank you, Jeremy. Doing his best Bill Yonka impersonation for just a little while. Work commitments keep people away every once in a while. But we have something exciting in our second storyteller. Robert, are we ready to talk about that? If you want. Okay. Come on up. Let's welcome Robert Bushy. Let's grab those. And Robert, you're going to tell a story, but we're also introducing something that's kind of cool. So, is that cool with you? Talk about it just for a little bit? Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, one of the things that we've done recently in Kankakee County is we've been applying and being awarded Healing Illinois grants through the Field Foundation and the Illinois Department of Human Services. And those grants serve to help for racial healing in our community and community healing in general. So there's lots of things that pull us apart, and these try to pull us back together. And so Bill and I have been collaborating and scheming, and that's a scary thing, but it's good. And we applied for a Healing Illinois grant in cooperation with the Grow Center that I direct over in Bourbonnais to do this Healing Stories Kankakee program. So the Healing Illinois program this year is focusing on narrative and story. And I was like, well, we've already got that happening downtown. And we're going to need a large space for a couple big events that we would like to host, Healing Stories Kankakee. There are flyers that are going to be over here along with the bios. And on the flyer, there's information about how you might sign up to tell one of our healing stories on Sunday, March 15th at 6 p.m. at the Grow Center. The program will run very similar to what we do here at Yarn Factory. We will offer to the storytellers, you'll sign up, we'll select storytellers, and those will be able to attend a storytelling workshop prior to the event on March 15th. And that date is not quite set, but it's time to start signing up for it because that's a month away. And so we want to get our storytellers together. We're looking for 5 to 6 storytellers per event. We have 2 events. The stories need to be no longer than 15 minutes. Here you get 8, there you get up to 15, but if you go over 15, I'm going to turn off your mic. Period. So it's not more than 15 minutes. 10 is really good if you can do that. Again, storytellers will be invited to a free storytelling workshop that Bill's going to help lead with that, and we'll get you ready for it. And then selected storytellers will also receive an honorarium. So there's green dollars involved in this. Thank you, Healing Illinois Grant, for the honorariums. And then out of hopefully about 10 storytellers over 2 events, we will select 5 or 6, but probably 5, that we will invite to record for the Stony Road podcast that I co-host with Dr. Shannon Swilley here in the community. And those stories will then be archived also on YouTube and be available to the community. And you get another honorarium for recording your story. So there's a little bit of incentive to tell good stories, but this is an awesome opportunity for our community to do some community healing. I don't have to tell you that we need community healing right now. Amen. And I don't have to tell you that we need healing in general in our nation and in the world right now. You already know that. I am absolutely sure. And here's an opportunity to do that. And I'm so glad to be partnering and collaborating with Yarn Factory and Bill Yonka on Healing Stories Kankakee. So be sure to grab one of these. There's a QR code on the back that will take you to a form if you want to sign up to tell a story.
That's pretty cool. Thank you, Robert, for bringing us that opportunity. And I don't know if you need to you set those over there, but a little unorthodox. Now we're going to welcome back to the stage Robert Bushy, from a lot of different roles in our community, from the Grove Center. And now he's coming up to actually tell his story.
So my ancestors migrated French Canadians into the eastern part of Kankakee County almost 200 years ago. My great-grandfather settled in the St. Anne area. He was a truck farmer, which meant that he grew produce, and he loaded it on the back of his buckboard wagon, and he would take the team of horses and the buckboard into town to deliver his produce to market. And when he wasn't growing produce, he was hauling coal and ice and whatever he could fit and the team of horses would carry. That's what he did. My grandfather, growing up doing those same things with his father, moved into the eastern side of Kankakee in the 1920s and established a trucking and excavating business. He bought a small parcel of property over in a new development on the east side of Kankakee called Hobby Heights. He bought a piece of land, he built a home, he built a large block garage. The garage was the largest garage in the city of Kankakee at the time. It was the only garage where you could lift a dump truck in the garage and service the garage. He was big time, at least he thought he was. My father and my uncles all grew up in that house on North Cottage Avenue in Kankakee. When my father returned from his military service during the Korean conflict in the 1950s and married my mother, they moved into a house on Industrial Avenue, 1 block over from Cottage Avenue in Hobby Heights. Hobby Heights is where my 2 brothers, who were born in the late 50s and early 60s, were brought home to from St. Mary's Hospital. So Hobby Heights was my family's home. It's where we come from. But I'm not going to really talk about my heritage tonight. I really want to talk about grass. Grass. Not that kind of grass. Green, growing, lush grass. In the summer of 1980, the beginning of the golden decade. The golden decade because I was turning 10 years old. And I was finally big enough and old enough to help mow the yard at home. I was so excited. My dad bought a Roper lawn tractor. It had an 8-horse motor, a 36-inch cutting deck, a 4-speed transaxle. It was black and white, and it had headlights. It was the first vehicle I ever learned to drive. And I wheeled it around the trees and around the trees and around the trees. My family moved to Limestone Township from Hobby Heights 2 years before I was born. They had escaped the old neighborhood, built a ranch home, and my brothers and I attended the Herscher School District, where every student in every classroom looked just like us. Just like us. Except for the special needs children who were bused in from the area cooperative, and they didn't look like us. My family had escaped the old neighborhood. My dad worked for a Kankakee Roper company, punching out stove parts 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Made a decent living for that time. Life was pretty good for me. I was mowing the lawn and Dad was working and things were good, and we hadn't got the news that in a couple years the company was going to sell out and move south for lower wages, and we were going to be unemployed and facing all of the things that brought into our life. I had just finished the 4th grade. Where's Jeremy? The 4th grade. I had just finished the 4th grade. I had been perfecting my cursive handwriting, and I had just read my favorite book once more, The Mouse and the Motorcycle. During that summer, my dad would go back to the old neighborhood, and I would go with him because my grandfather, before he had died, had owned 2 properties in Hobby Heights, and he had rented one of them out, and now after his death, we were renting both of them out to the new families who were moving in and out of Hobby Heights. When my family lived in Hobby Heights, it was a primarily white, blue-collar, working-class neighborhood. Now it was primarily a black, working-class, blue-collar neighborhood. We rented a 4-room, 1-bedroom house on North Fairmont Avenue, and Dad would have to go over as executor of my grandpa's estate, which was just the 2 houses. He would have to go over and collect the rent and fix the things in the house that were broken and get it ready for the next renter should the renting start to change. Well, I would go with him, and there were 2 driveways between this house and the next house, and they were separated by a row of flowers, beautiful flowers, that the lady next door had planted. And on one Saturday afternoon, I decided to cross over the row of flowers into the other driveway. I'm 9, 10 years old. I cross over the flowers, I go over to the fence, and I peer into the backyard, and there's an older lady, and she turns and she looks at me and she smiles, this big old smile. It's something I learned later that black women often did when a white person was looking at them, but it took me a long time to learn about that. And she said to me, she knew who I was because she knew my grandpa before he had died, and she said, "Son, would you like to help me mow my yard?" Oh. Well, yes. What kind of mower do you have? She said, "I got a push mower." I said, well, my dad's got one of those from Kmart. It's green. It's got a black motor on top. My mom pushes it around the trees and the bushes and trims the whole yard with it. And she laughed and she said, son, she said, my push mower don't have any motor. And she got in her garage and she brought out this red, twisted metal reel mower, and it had a chrome handle on it, and the chrome handle could pivot from one side to the other so you could push it from either direction in the yard. Well, being the imaginative young boy I was hooked. I grabbed that handle and I took off down the sidewalk out to her alley as fast as I could. Down the alley, back, down to the alley and back, down to the alley and back, so fast that the cut blades of grass would literally fly over my head. And she would laugh and laugh and laugh until she had tears in her eyes. Here she was, big, silvery hair, laughing and in joy. When I finished that day, she gave me $2 and a can of pop. I was sold. I was back every weekend I could to mow that grass. Towards the end of the summer, when I went back, she wasn't feeling so well. I mowed her yard, cut the grass as fast as I could. And when I got done, she told me she was about to move. Now, I don't know where she moved, but I was 9 then. Now, I kind of suspect she was moving on. And she said to me, son, why don't you take that mower with you home? And I still have it to this day. That real mower in my shed. I don't push it as fast as I did back then. She began something in me that she couldn't have imagined she began. She began a journey of healing. Healing from all of the things that I had been told that were wrong about people who didn't look like me. She had made me question all of the prejudice that I had learned at home, on the school bus, at the playground. She began a journey that told me that when you get to know a person and you have a relationship with a person, you can drop those prejudices about their skin color and their ethnicity and maybe even their first language. Well, she also started a mowing business because I mowed lawns from 10 years old to 18 years old, and that's how I started to go to college. Well, truth be told, I'm still mowing grass every summer. You can find me on the mower over at the Grove Center in Bourbonnais. And I'm still healing the wounds of racial prejudice and racism, one relationship at a time. Thank you.
Let's give Robert another big round of applause. Thank you for that, Robert. Before Dr. Adrian comes up, I wanted you to see something. I have hurt my finger over like a months ago, and I'm waiting for it to heal. I was thinking about this because there are, with stories we may hear tonight, there are times when there are stories of healing, and sometimes there are times where stories might seem, they might be hard to hear. They might feel like they're mean or offensive. But sometimes that bit of healing, it hurts for a while. And if it hurts a little bit, that's okay. It doesn't mean someone's being mean or offensive to you. Sometimes it's a needed uncomfortableness. I'm waiting for this uncomfortableness to be better, but we're also, like in a lot of ways in our lives, we're waiting for some of those things that feel uncomfortable to feel better. But it takes time to heal, right? So, with that said, I would like to welcome Dr. Adrian Walker to the stage, and keep in mind that sometimes things need healing. Yeah, I'll move it exactly how you want it.
I'm sure.
You're perfect.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much. And I am a crier, so I want to thank everyone up front. I would like to first thank God, who has brought me through so much in my 71 years. I would like to thank Bill again. I would like to thank Reverend Robert Bushy, because I have been part of his Piece of the Puzzle racial healing group. He had about 6 different sessions, and I think I participated in 5. He allowed me to tell my truth. He gave us what he called a touchstone, and at sometimes I had to have 2. They were like rocks, because as we talked about certain things, it hurt. I would like to thank my book club, the Sweet and Salty Racial Justice Book Club. Those ladies give me life. Where y'all at, ladies? Make some noise. Make some noise. I would like to thank my friends who came and who have come to support me. I would like to thank my partner in crime. I would like to thank my sister and friend Soini, because she is responsible for me beginning to tell stories and doing the spoken word. So, like Bill said, my story may be a little difficult. I don't want anybody to take anything to heart. Okay? Fasten your seatbelts. It might be a little turbulence, but I promise you, we're going to land real smooth at the end of this story. Is everybody ready? Yeah. All right, let's get at it. I was born January 26, 1955 in Chicago at Cook County Hospital, Ward 51. Ward 51, yes, that's the ward the colored woman, the Negro woman, had her baby. My parents were from a little town called Laurel, Mississippi, about 80, 90 miles from Jackson, Mississippi. My father, what brought them to Chicago during that time, it was called the Great Migration. And my father had went to World War II, and when he came home, 2 or 3 days after he got home, it was a colored man, a boy, being lynched. Well, that was common practice. We're talking about the state of Mississippi. And what they would do, as they were known, the white folks would hide in the bushes and wait to see if somebody would cut that man, that boy, from the tree. And if you cut him from the tree, there was the possibility that you could be lynched. And so you had to wait for the white man to come and say, Joe, go on over there, boy, and cut that man down. Cut that boy down from that tree. Right? So my parents sat down, had a conversation, and decided they would move north. They knew what was in Mississippi. They knew what the South was going to give them. They didn't know what the North was going to give them. Now, Martin Luther King says, in all the cities he had been in, the most racist, the most prejudiced city was the city of Chicago. And what's so crazy about Chicago and the racism of that time, Chicago was given the name by a black man. Du Sable. Look him up. That's fact, y'all. That's fact. My professor say whenever it's fact, you can say it. So they moved to Chicago. My father was of the belief that a woman should stay home and tend the house and tend the kids. My father worked 2 jobs. He worked at a place called Kuppenheimer. If you ever watch any of those old black and white movies, it'll say Suits by Kuppenheimer will run down there. And he retired from Kuppenheimer and Marshall Field. And my father had a 6th grade education. My mother went to Jackson State College, then now Jackson State University. So, in other words, I went to school to come home to school because in those days, the colored woman, the Negro woman who went to college, she mostly went to college for nursing because a lot of times they didn't want to see to the colored person, the Negro person, because you might catch black, so they ain't gonna touch you. So they said, well, we would think that we thought it was a good idea if the colored woman learned nursing, or because further generations back they didn't learn to read and write. So they were big on teaching children, so we needed a lot of school teachers. So my mother was a school teacher. So I went to school and hell came home to school. But it paid off in the long run because I really loved to learn. So my parents didn't know a lot of people in Chicago, so I spent every summer going to Mississippi because they wanted me to know my people, my cousins and everything. So my mother would, at the end of school, my mother would get me ready, have on my best dress, had them damn ribbons in my hair, had my little socks on with the lace on it, and I got my shoebox and my coloring books, and I'm getting ready to get on the City of New Orleans. That's the train that takes you from Chicago to New Orleans, and all the stops along the way. So I would like to ask, does anybody know what was in that shoebox? Where my Mississippi people at? I had fried, we didn't have no fancy lunch boxes like we got. You put that fried chicken, that homemade pound cake, and them homemade cookies in that shoebox. And my mother would say all the way, I don't have to talk to you. No, Mama, you don't have to talk to me. I don't have to talk to you, do I? No, Mama, you don't have to talk to me. So she take me, we be at the train station, take me to where we gonna get on the train, and she say one last time, I don't have to talk to you, right? Well, one of those talks to me, and I only had 3 times to go to the bathroom, and I had one emergency. So I would save my emergency for when the conductor would say Canton, because I knew Jackson was next, right? So sometime I got lucky, and I didn't get lucky, but we sat in the colored section, and I got lucky to sit by one of the windows. And I was excited. And so when you go all the way down, and you feel the train here slowing down, and you hear somebody say, we approaching Cairo. Well, it's like, here's the Mississippi River down here, and the train is up here, and it's kind of like a bridge. I don't know what they have now, but it was like a bridge, and it had the train tracks. And it couldn't go fast because it was the possibility that maybe the wind and stuff might make the train topple, and here's the river down here, right? So I'm looking out the window and excited, and I'm by myself. I'm going on my way to meet my cousins and have fun for the summer. So now, all of a sudden, you feel the train starting to pick its speed up. Does anybody know what has just happened?
Mason-Dixon line.
We have now crossed the Mason-Dixon line. And what that meant was, what my mama was telling me was that you are now in the South And this is about saving your life to get down there and get back. And you don't want them white folks to kill you because they will. They will. Okay? You do know that Mississippi just abolished slavery in 2014.
All right.
So, what it meant was, remember I had that pretty dress on? If the white lady say, "Oh, little girl, that's a pretty dress," I was supposed to hold my head down, and I was supposed to say, "Thank you, ma'am." She said, "How old are you, little girl?" "I'm 10 years old, ma'am." You always said, "Ma'am." "Yes, ma'am," "No, ma'am," "Yes, sir," "No, sir," because that could get you killed. So, I went on to Mississippi every year, and I think that's probably why I have a problem kind of going on that trip sometime in Mississippi. I don't know. It's some of what Reverend Bushy talked about, that healing. I'm still healing. And I was a kid, but I'm still healing because it's some pain and some hurt there. But life goes on, and we have to take things and put them in their proper place. That's part one of my story. Part two of my story is I was having what I thought was a very intelligent, articulate conversation with this lady, and she was white, and that's been about maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, right? And all of a sudden, in the conversation, the lady told me, "Yeah, you know what you could do? You need to take yourself back to Africa." Whoa! Did she just tell me that? Whoa! You want me to do what? Yeah, you should go back to Africa. Some say, "Adrian, get up and beat our ass." See, the God I know, he said, Adrian. He's a good God, y'all. He said, "Here's your opportunity, Adrian, to use this as a teaching lesson." He that kind of God, y'all. I said, "What, God? You know, God, you be tripping. Do you want me to teach this lady?" He said, "Yes, he's using you right now, Adrian." I said, "Okay." So I got my nice position, and I said, "You know what, ma'am? Thank you for your invitation to invite me to Africa, but it's a couple of things me and you gonna have to do before I get ready to go to Africa." She said, "Well, what?" I said, "Girl, we probably gonna need about 400 ships before we get ready to go to Africa." She said, "What you gonna need a ship for?" I said, "Girl, them diamonds on your finger, we gonna have to get everybody in the United States to take them diamonds off their finger." She said, "Why would we do that?" I said, "Cause diamonds come from Africa. If you want me to go back to Africa, I know you don't want everybody to wear diamonds on their finger, and you want me to go back to Africa, so I'm gonna have to take them diamonds back to Africa. I need you to take that gold. We're gonna get everybody who got gold, everybody who got silver, everybody who got platinum. We definitely gonna get this uranium. And we're going to take the uranium back to Africa, and we're going to load these ships up. Because you can't expect me to want to go to Africa and you benefit. That don't like go together, do it?" I said, "And that cell phone, you could keep the cell phone. But I'm going to need to take that cobalt that phone runs on out of the phone. You can keep the part that say Samsung, Motorola, whatever, but I'm going to need to get that lithium out that phone, and I'm going to need to get that copper, because remember, copper comes from Africa, that cobalt comes from Africa, and let me tell you about cobalt. Some of those mines down there in the Congo are so narrow that an adult can't go through that mine, so children are picking this cobalt, and guess what they got from it? They got cancer, and you want to benefit and be on your phone? Oh, we can't do that, man. We got to start getting all this stuff, girl. We might need about 600 or 800 ships when we get to taking all this stuff back where it came from. I'm doing a teaching lesson to the lady, right? And let me tell y'all, I done got in trouble about this. Lord knows I done got in trouble about this. I told her we're going to have to start, first of all, we're going to have to make it to Graceland. We're going to have to take that down that Elvis Presley sang, "You ain't nothing but a hound dog," and wobble that leg. I said, a black woman sang that song 5 years before Elvis got it. I said, he grew up in Tupelo, Mississippi with the black folks, and they was down there teaching him how to pick his guitar. Not play it, y'all. That's a black word. Pick that guitar. Y'all know what my black folks say. Pick that, go on, pick that guitar, boy. They taught him how to sing. Not sing, but sing. Where my black folks at? So, we're going to start with Elvis. We're going to have to remove Rowdy Yates, head him up, move him out. Because Rawhide is fictional, because grown men that were black were not given the right to be called a man. And they train the horses and they train the cows. So hence, let's put the word cowboy together. So Rowdy Yates, we're going to have to remove him from television history. Because that's a lie. No, I said, now the Lone Ranger, let me tell you, baby, the Lone Ranger is a man named Bass Reeves. Okay. He escapes slavery, goes to the Oklahoma Territory. It wasn't even a state yet. He befriends the indigenous people. He learns the dialect, their languages. He develops a relationship with them. And the judge, the white man that was the judge, sends messages for Bass Reeves and says, you have a rapport with the white man, the black man, the Indian man. Why don't you come and work for me? That's how you end up with the Lone Ranger. Y'all didn't notice that when the Lone Ranger always, when it came on color, what my old school folks said, he had a black man song. He was telling y'all something, y'all. He was black. So you're going to have to change that. I told her, I say, now, I don't know what you're going to do, sweetheart, about the traffic light, because it's a black man that invented the traffic light, invented refrigeration. I don't know about eating no potato chips. You can still eat the dip, but I'm going to have to take the potato chips and put it on the ship. I don't know what you're going to do for air conditioning and heating, because a black man invented that. I don't know how you're going to, maybe you could papoose your kids, because the black man invented the baby stroller that you push your babies in, and the black man invented that, right? I told her, I don't know what you're going to do about your clothes, girl, because a black man invented the iron and the ironing board. You know, I told her, I say, have you ever heard of a blue baby? She said, no, I ain't never heard of a blue baby. I said, that's because black folks don't have blue babies. So who do you think have blue babies? I feel bad for that, saying that, but this is a fact. The babies are born with some kind of heart condition, something, and it causes the baby because the blood is not flowing. Let me tell you, his name is Vivian Thomas, and he creates a procedure to stop the blue baby. The doctor goes and decides he's going to do the procedure. It's big news at Johns Hopkins, right? And he gets nervous. And he says, hell, I can't do this by myself. Where is Vivian Thomas? And the lady said, Dr. Blaylock, I can't be calling no colored man over no loudspeaker. He snatched that loudspeaker out of her hand. He said, Vivian, come right away. Come right now to surgery. He comes running and he said, well, what's wrong? He said, you scrubbing up. You going in here with me. He's like, but I'm a colored man. They don't want me in there. He said, you coming in here with me. They saved that baby. And today, you never hear the word blue baby because of Vivian Thomas. Vivian Thomas stood behind him on a step stool, and he walked him through that procedure. Every time he did it, I said, you know I'm taking Vivian Thomas with me, right? I don't know what y'all going to do about the babies. I'm going to be praying for the babies, but I'm taking Vivian Thomas with me.
All right, tell it.
It's a lot, and I would like to encourage you all to Google inventions made by black folks, by black people. I told her, I don't know what you're going to do about electricity because Thomas Edison stole that. I say, and he took this black man to court, and he didn't know the black man could read and write. And he had tracked all his documentation on his experiments. And unfortunately, the judge had to honor this, that the black man invented electricity. I know y'all pay that bill and say ComEd, but that ain't really fact. That ain't fact, y'all. That ain't fact. But it's all right. I'm going to close my story in a minute. And I told her, I say, if you know anyone that has had cancer, if you know anyone that has had lung disease, AIDS, COVID, every disease there is in the last 70 years, it is because of a woman named Henrietta Lacks. I said, what they did, she went to Johns Hopkins. She had ovarian cancer. She dies. Well, what do they do, y'all, when you have cancer? They do a biopsy. They did the biopsy and they said, oh my God, this woman has eternal cells. Do you know what we could do with this? Y'all know how much they gave this woman? Not one red cent. They dissected themselves, and every cure that they have come up with in America, that woman did not get restitution until Ben Crump came and fixed it and made it right for her. For her family. And I said, so if you've had a relative, the doctor gave them 6 months, but they lived 5 years, I'm going to need you to know that's because of the healer cell. And so you want me to go back to Africa. Baby, I'm locked, loaded, ready, and I got my ships ready. And I don't know what y'all going to do. I told her, I said, and by the way, you're going to have to go back, go to the gas station, get them maps, pull it out, get that crayon, draw on it, because the GPS is getting on the ship with me too. It's getting on the ship with me too. Because a black woman invented GPS. And she just died last month. I told her, I say, I don't know what Neil gonna do. One step for man, one giant step for mankind. He gonna take that flag and just find some dirt and stick it in there. Because it's about 20 black women known as human calculators. All right. That helped Neil Armstrong put that flag on the moon. I'm taking them women with me. You want me to go back to Africa? I told her, I say, if you had any relatives World War II and they managed to get their mail and their packages, it's about 600-700 black women. Look it up on Netflix, y'all. It's called 6888. Them women made that possible. They made that possible under Roosevelt. And his wife, she was an advocate for fairness for all people. Shout out to Eleanor. But I told y'all this is going to be a smooth landing. In that teaching lesson that I did, the woman started crying. I said, what's wrong? Damn, Adrian, you always saying shit. She said, what? They gave my husband 6 months to live and he lived 5 years. I said, bam, thank you, God. Thank you for this teaching opportunity. So I want to encourage you all, please Google, because almost, I would say 80% of the things that you use on a daily basis has been invented by people of color. And my last and final word is, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or what. I want y'all to know, you do know who built the White House, right? Y'all do know the slaves, they was black, right? Y'all do know the slaves built the White House. So I just want to leave you with that. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for everyone that came out and supported me. I made it through. I made it through without crying. Thank you.
Let's give Adrian another big round of applause. Now is the point in the evening when we take a quick break. Get yourself a drink. The venue crew does such a good job. Get yourself something to drink. Use the restroom. Take a minute. We'll have 3 more storytellers to finish out the night. Sonia Nee, are you coming up here? You better come here. Sonia Barrett, making her return to our stage. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Let's give her a big round of applause.
Y'all look good. I thank y'all for coming to hear what I have to say. So, question. I know you heard people say you got to pick your battles. Anybody ever heard that? Yeah. This ain't about my battle, okay? So, I lived in Kankakee since I was 9 years old, from Mississippi. But didn't like Kankakee. Okay, we're gonna talk about that. But in 1980, I moved to Minnesota. And when I moved to Minnesota, I acquired a job at this particular place called Andrew Boarding Care. It was for the mentally ill. And I was the only African American that worked there. And that was cool, because I'm not afraid of nobody. So anyway, in this bill, my responsibility, I worked the night shift. I was a supervisor at the night shift, and my job was to, make sure that everybody was doing what they were supposed to do. But my biggest responsibility was going to the back house. They had a little house in the back, and that was for people who had gotten to the point where they are now able to live on their own. But before they make that transition, we have to make sure they know how to take care of themselves and a house. They know how to cook, budget their monies, and also just do all the things you got to do when you get in the house, okay? So at nighttime, my job was to go out at 3 o'clock at nighttime. Oh, got to tell you, this facility was located in the Indian Territory in Minneapolis, right? Wasn't a nice neighborhood. So at nighttime, I have to go outside by myself. It's cool. So I'm a big girl. So I go outside. I like listening to my music, to my favorite radio station, WDIA, right? Yeah. So I'm listening to it. I got my ear things on, and I'm going around, and I'm checking the house and everything is okay, cool. So this particular night, I'm coming back. I'm not paying attention because I'm listening to my music, but I heard something. And I looked, there was a ledge, a wall between the facility and the house next door. There was this guy crouched as if he's going to jump. And I said, excuse my language, I ain't no person. What the? Y'all feel it because I'm mad because I'm out here by myself. I said, you need to get down and you need to get down now. And he just stood there. I said, because if you jump down, you're going to have hell to pay. And then you're going to jail. But he didn't know me. I was scared. So I was so glad that he decided to change his mind. And I went inside like this, right? And I just informed people I'm never going outside by myself again. Somebody gonna have to go with me. We need security. Because I'm not security, I'm mental health. But we need some security. We need some walkie-talkies, and we need some other things around here. It's good. So after that night, the next day, after that happened, one of the young ladies I work with told me, she said, the nurse says that you be stealing chickens. From the little house. So I said, say what? She said, yeah, she said, you be stealing chicken. I said, really? I said, well, if I'm stealing chicken, you stealing chicken too. She said, how is that? Because I ride with you. My purse is about this big. So, first of all, she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to you. She was trying to get you to to turn against me because she know I have a good relationship with you. She really never said anything to me, but to say that about me, I said, no, see, you're going to have to fix this because that's not my battle. This is yours. You got to fix it because she brought it to you. She didn't bring it to me. She says, you have to fix this. Fix it. So what she did was they never had a union at this facility. So my friend, she went and spoke to some of the other people that knew me, and they decided, yes, we need to stand up for Barrett. We need to get a union in here because they're not going to do that to her. Well, thank you. So they got a union. The nurse that made that statement about me, she was one of the administrators, and because they was now getting a union, it was going to hurt her. So she begged them to not get a union in this facility. They said, no, we're going to get a union. So one thing they came up with to maybe defer them from getting this union, they said, well, you all could go on this, go overnight someplace and stay someplace. We going to pay for everything, and you all can have all the time off you need because the administrator would take care of the facility while you all are gone. So we went for a year. We went for a month. Not a month, I lied. We went for a week. And during that week was when they made sure that they tied up all the loose ends with that union that they was bringing in. We really needed a union. And like I said, I was the only African-American person that worked there. And there was another young man that worked there, and they said, he always tell black jokes. I was going to tell him, I don't play that. That he is not, we can talk cool, but he cannot come and tell me any jokes, because at that time in 1980 was when every day you saw all these pictures of the little African children with the big stomach and stuff like that. So no, he cannot tell me not one joke, not one African joke. He can talk to me, but for us telling me jokes like that, he cannot do that. So we didn't do that. But working there with these people, these white people, I love them. They would take me out to eat. We would go to parties together. We worked the night shift. So one particular time, we wore our pajamas to work. So, I was in modeling at the time, so I had to look good when I was in my pajamas. I had the onesie. So I had this, what you say, you wearing a onesie? Yeah. So the next day, we were supposed to go up to the bar and have our drink, because that's our night, right? So I was standing there. I had to go get some money from the bank. So I'm standing at the outside waiting for the bank to open. One young lady from Kankakee that I never saw till this day, she said, "What?" She said, "Why are you standing here with your pajamas on?" I said, "I don't have my pajamas on." She said, "Yes, you do." I said, "No, I don't." I guess she was very confused. I was just playing with her, She said, "Yes, you have pajamas on. Girl, leave me alone." I said, "Look, you're right, I do have a pajama." I said I worked the night shift, and we decided to go out and eat, and I needed to get some money, so I come to the bank. But yes, I do have on this onesie. So my friends decided they wanted to take me out camping. I've never been camping. I have a onesie on. I'm going camping. So we go camping, and we went fishing, or they got in the boat, we went fishing, we came back. But when we came back, there was 2 guys there. We was the only one out there. It's like 6 of us. So I said, who got the knife? Who got the gun? Because y'all not put me out front. I'm not going to be that scapegoat for y'all. But anyway, during the night, I said, no, what's going to happen? Somebody going to have to take turns. Somebody going to have to stay up and watch. Because we don't know who these guys are and what they want. They don't look very nice people either, you know. So we heard this noise during the night. Everybody jumped behind me. I said, you know what? It ain't gonna work. We gonna go out and we gonna confront them. No, we went out, nobody was there. So I don't know what the noise was, but nobody was there. I was glad because, you know, I was gonna run. But anyway, I just really had a nice time in Minneapolis with my friends. Actually, when I left Minneapolis and moved to Memphis, some of my friends came down and stayed with me, and we just enjoyed life. And I think that's what it's about. I don't have to, like I said, I did not deal with the racism that came to me on that job from that lady, because it wasn't my battle. It was my friend's battle. If you're my friend, you're gonna take up for me, and that's exactly what they did, and I really appreciate it. So I'm just saying that it's nice to be important, but it's more better to be nice. So I'm just saying, just enjoy. We all the same. Thank you.